All
Yep.
right. Well, great. Well, thank you guys again for joining us today during Hispanic Heritage Month and coming to listen to hear more about our HACEMOS history. I am super excited. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Don Cordero. I am the national president of HACEMOS. And I have had the honor of working with Yvonne in the past through HISPA on different, I'm going to say side projects for me, but her lifelong journey with HISPA and with Dr. Reina, who's also on the call. Recently met him and just I'm going to say fan club, fell in love. And so for those of you who are at our 35th anniversary, hopefully you had the opportunity to meet him there. If not, today is a very cool day for you. So I wanted just to formally introduce Dr. Yvonne, and then what I will do is I'll pass it over, and so you can introduce yourself a little bit more, and the same thing with Dr. Rudy. And so and I call everybody by their first name, so everybody has long last names. So I know even my kids. So it's a Hispanic curse if you carry both the last names for different reasons. But for Dr. Yvonne, for those of you who don't know her, she is the president and CEO of HISPA, which is Hispanics Inspiring Students Performance and Achievement. HISPA is a nonprofit organization, and it inspires Latino students to discover their potential and ignite their desire to embrace education and achieve success. And under her leadership, and this is what I know I seen it when it came out, but I didn't recall it until I read it. And I'm like, I need to highlight this. This is truly exceptional. Under Dr. Yvonne's leadership, HISPA received the President's Award for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, Engineering, Mentoring in 2020. And that's from the White House Initiative on Education, and the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. And it was called, I believe, Bright Spot in Hispanic Education. So those are really very notable awards for recognition. And so, Dr. Yvonne, I'll hand it over to you really quick to do a quick introduction, and then I'll introduce Rudy, Dr. Rudy.
Absolutely, but it is my honor, and Dr. Rudy is a role model to me. So I'm just honored to be here with him, and that's what we are all about. I grew up in Puerto Rico, and came to the United States to pursue my degrees, my passion for mathematics, and it was actually AT&T who would sponsor my master's degree in operations research and open a whole new world for me. And after that, I came back to work for AT&T. And of course, within the second day at the office, I remember like today, walking to the cafeteria, pretty intimidated, trying to figure out who am I going to have lunch with. And immediately I heard some individuals speaking Spanish. This is 1989 in Homedale, New Jersey. And I said, I'm Yvonne, I'm from Puerto Rico. And next thing you know, instantly, I had a network of, colleagues, friends, mentors. And that was because at that point, there was something called the Hispanic Club. The HISPA was kind of like the employee resource group was evolving. And one of the activities that they did was come and learn Spanish at lunchtime. So I got lucky that that day they were doing that activity, and I found this amazing group of individuals. So that's the beginning of my journey.
That is wonderful. And what a way to be welcomed, right? I think that is exceptional. All right. So now I have the esteemed honor to introduce Dr. Rudy, and he is a founder of Alamo STEM Ecosystem and the president of America STEM Alliance. And I love this piece because I think my daughter's dream is to go to Texas A&M. So you got your PhD at Texas A&M. So watch out. My daughter may, when she gets old enough to have a LinkedIn, she may be reaching out because that's her goal. She's 14 now, so we'll see. Right now, her goal is to go to Texas A&M. And when I read your bio, the one thing that stood out was the list. And when I say list, that was about a half a page of just affiliations and awards that you have been a part of. I mean, you've been past chair for several Hispanic Association groups. And you're currently, I believe, still on the board of the San Antonio Museum of Science and Technology, which I think is awesome. So if you want to just highlight yourself a little bit more, that'd be great.
Thank you, Don, and Yvonne also for your kind words. This is exciting. So I grew up in San Antonio real quick, and I basically did go to A&M, and you'd be very happy, Don, to know that I was the second chair of the A&M Hispanic Network, which is a statewide organization. So when your daughter gets there, we'll definitely connect her. I know there's a bunch of other Hispanic organizations, but this is a professional one that provides great opportunities for mentoring and things of that sort. So I think like Dr. Yvonne, I started at Bell Labs and back when y'all were little, and so I'm the most chronologically gifted one here, but I basically worked at Whippany in New Jersey, and they sent me through grad school at Columbia, and undergrad was in double E, and my graduate work was in computer science. So that was a great opportunity, and just really had just a great experience there. Then I moved to what was Southwestern Bell from when I was in Chicago. That's where I met basically, well, actually, yeah, in Chicago, Yvonne, the other Yvonne, and basically started in St. Louis, moved from right before divestiture, like in 79, so 78 timeframe, and stayed with Southwestern Bell because I had hoped to get back to San Antonio, which I did in 1993 after divestiture. But I did spend time in the telephone company, and then in what's called Technology Resources, which was a technology sub. And then I went ahead and came back to San Antonio and had the real honor of being president of the SBC Foundation, which was a corporation at that point that here in San Antonio, after they moved the headquarters here. So it was a dream come true. And then when we were in St. Louis, before I moved to San Antonio, several of us heard about HACEMOS that's starting their chapters in Houston, San Antonio. So myself, Nomar Martinez, who was a third level like me at the time, and Rick, basically, he was a division level in finance, and we ended up starting a chapter in St. Louis. So at the very beginnings, and we became part of the network, and it was a great experience. It got me involved and with HACEMOS, and so we had a great opportunity. The one thing that was interesting too was that we when I was president of the foundation, I had a committee that the board of directors, a subset of the board of directors, would participate with, and on my committee was Carlos Slim. And so that was a great opportunity to get to meet him and his wife. And you all may recall that that's when Southwestern Bell or SBC had an agreement and had with Teléfonos de Mexico. And the reason I mention that is because we had a chapter of HACEMOS in Mexico City, which was kind of, very unusual. So anyway, that kind of gives you a good idea of, where I've been relative to AT&T, HACEMOS, and you'll see in a second, there's a bunch of connections that we always had with AT&T, even then, before the merger, if you want to call it. And so it was a great journey.
That's wonderful. And you'll be happy to know, so we don't have chapters outside of the US as a nonprofit, but we do still work with Mexico City. They actually participate every year in High Technology Day. They host their own now. So yes, so we still have connections with them. They have been, AT&T Mexico has been hosting, this will be their fourth year hosting High Technology Day. A little bit different than us, but we still have strong connections there and we support them. So it's great
Fantastic.
to hear that. I didn't realize we had a chapter there so long ago so it sounds wonderful. Well, and Dr. Rain, you touched on it, but maybe Yvonne, if you can do a huge favor and kind of go through, because it's, when I think about it, right, from a history, right, on how Hacemos started, it is a it's like a big balloon, right? And inside that balloon, have you guys ever seen those balloons filled with confetti? And at sometimes when you pop it, all the confetti comes out, right? And so at one point, the balloon got popped and all this confetti came out, and from all that confetti became Hacemos. So I know there's ties to SBC. There's ties across all the different companies. And so just really interested to hear from how we started up in the Northeast area right? And that was a little bit different than how we started in the South. So the North versus South kind of thing. But if we can tie it together for the audience, I think it's really intriguing because when I went through and read about it, I was like, I did not know that. It is really, for me, it's really interesting to hear how it all came to, how the balloon popped and we all just became, one big happy family that we are today, 35 years later.
Yeah. But I would love to share my slide. I have a slide, so I'm not
Of
sure if we need
course.
to prompt you. So there is many years behind us. So we definitely want to have this graphic that showcases
Yes.
how HISPA came to be. So before we were Hispanics Inspiring Students, that long name, we used to be the Hispanic Employee Resource Group of AT&T. And it started formally more established in 1984, even though we know that there was leaders that were working and mobilizing and coming together, but formally became the Hispanic Association of AT&T Employees, and it was incorporated in 1986. Later on, by 1993, HISPA became a 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. So this start telling the story of the evolution of how we became the new HISPA. By 2005, we actually had opened the organization to partner with other individuals in the community that they became that they have members of HISPA. So in our bylaws, we allowed for not AT&T membership. By 2006 is when the merger occurs, and that's kind of my journey in parallel. I was the national president of HISPA when the merger occurred. So it was my honor and also the opportunity to come together these two well-established organizations with 501c3 status to decide how do we come together. What is the optimal way for us to improve on what everybody was doing, and how can we bring up to the world the best of these two organizations. And that's when at the same time I had this aha moment where I was invited to share my story at a school as the HISPA national president. And at that point, I just went to a school in New Jersey. I shared my story with a group of students, all of them mainly of Hispanic heritage. And the students were so inspired that they wanted my autograph. And that moment, it was like a light bulb went on. I said, we have an amazing opportunity to come together as one organization, and the new AT&T have HACEMOS as their employee resource group, and then HISPA recast as a new organization that can partner with HACEMOS to bring Latino role models to our youth, but also partner with other employee resource groups, other business resource groups in corporate America. So this is never been done. This is an employee resource group that evolved to a business resource group that then merged with another group, and then at the same time had the opportunity to continue as a standalone organization. And it just became very clear to me that this was something that needed to be done, that if we didn't do it, who will do it? Because we know the lack of role models in the life of our students is an obstacle. It's something that stops them from believing on what's possible, from taking action to follow those goals and achieve those dreams. So that was, it was just like incredible to me in retrospective, like when I think about it, it was an amazing decision that we all took together. And so many leaders that are here today that I'm sure are on the call were there the first time that we kick off what we call HISPA 2.0. And I did find a picture of that. So I apologize, but I want to actually thank Mayra Cáceres that quickly found these pictures for us. So we call it HISPA 2.0 to emphasize that this is the new HISPA. And the idea here was to recruit 100 role models in 100 hours. And the goal was to have at least 10 individuals from 10 companies that represented 10 different BRGs. And that's how HISPA got started. And the goal was simple. How do we bring Latino role models to our youth? And the way we accomplish that is doing programs in the schools where we schedule the visits of role models to the school. We arrange everything for everyone to be optimal and keep it simple, but have these powerful stories being shared with the students. We also coordinate what we call Imagine Days, which is, it started with the idea of High Technology Day. High Technology Day it was a best in class. We as HISPA will always look up to HACEMOS, because you were doing something so amazing of bringing chapters together to do this event. And that idea and that concept, we used to do it, but it was in one location at a time. So that is something that now we bring to many different corporations to bring the students to have those experiences with many leaders. And then, of course, the youth conference, which the very first youth conferences were done in partnership with HACEMOS. And then by 2009, we were able to start partnering with other organizations to support us with funding and so forth, to start expanding this program to many more universities. So just wanted to kind of bring that. I do have another picture here from one of the first youth conferences is in San Antonio. With Joaquin Castro was one of the speakers. And that, that's another beautiful picture that shows some of the first projects that HACEMOS and HISPA did together. And in this journey, I encountered Dr. Rudy Reina at the University of Texas in San Antonio when he was working there. And by the time this was in a hotel, the next youth conference in San Antonio was at UTSA, and Dr. Reina facilitated and supported that. So even though we didn't meet when we were both at AT&T or SBC, we met after in this new journey that we both have taken. So I'll stop right here, but I know there is so much more to be shared, but I just wanted to share this amazing history in where two organizations in 2006 come together. And one of the things that we make sure that we did was that some of the leaders, national leaders of HISPA, were part of the national leadership of the new HACEMOS. Let's call it the new HACEMOS because it was after the merger. And also we took the bylaws of both organizations and we went line by line to make sure that we created bylaws that will be even better for the new HACEMOS. And of course, for HISPA, it was a new organization, so we also have to revamp those bylaws. So I'll stop right here, but I really appreciate the opportunity to share because so much love and dedication and championship happened in that transition. And I'm just so happy to share that with individuals that might not know it, because it's a generation of dedication for the community, for the professional development of the Latinos at AT&T, and for the company to be successful.
Yeah, that is, and I think Doris put it in the chat as well. What an incredible story for those who were not aware. And thank you for sharing. I think it's been great. Love to hear it. I've heard it before, but again, you can never hear it. I think every time I hear it, I pick up a new tidbit, right? Of something that I didn't know before. So thank you. Let's take a step back a little bit. So pre-merger, Dr. Reina, and 1988, right, in San Antonio. Let's take us back a little bit. Tell us about what was happening and how I know you were really close with what we call our founding fathers, right? Those founding groups from the South. Take us back and tell us a little bit about, we all read why, we have on our hacemos.org page, you can see, right, a little snippet of our story, right? So we see that, but we know that it is so much more than just that two sentences that we have out there. There was a real need for the organization back in 1988, probably even before then. But take us back a little bit and tell us a little bit, tell the story. I love to hear the story.
Thank you, and congratulations, Dr. Diaz-Clasia, on everything that you all are accomplishing, and thanks, Don, for your having this set up, because it's a great opportunity, especially during this National Hispanic Heritage Month, to really highlight some of the great achievements of people that, others that have made this work. Like you mentioned, for HACEMOS, Jesse, just to have known him, he was an amazing individual. To imagine a first level manager along with Sam Ortiz, and walking into a vice president or president's office and saying, we really feel the need to have basically an affinity group that will basically represent the Hispanic community, especially in San Antonio. And I think, as you all may be aware, now, San Antonio is the first minority city, minority majority city in the United States. And so it is definitely, something that needed to be addressed because, with EEO or affirmative action, affirmative action, we saw more and more folks getting hired across the country, and including here, of course, in our area. However, what we would notice is that everyone was clustered at entry levels, whether it was non-management or maybe first level, if people were fortunate enough, and very few second and very, very few third level folks. So basically, there was a need and to not only help the company, but to with its strategies, with its initiatives, but also to communicate with the community in a different way, and then to support the employees. So I'm going to share, if I can, some slides here. So this is basically, things that we kind of just talked about, Jesse Sanchez and Sam Ortiz being the co-founder. Of course, Ben Cavazos, who eventually ended up with AT&T. I'll talk about that in a minute. And Ruben Garcia and others. Ruben was the third level here in San Antonio. And our second chair, by the way, after Jesse, was Irma Woodruff. She's a Latina from El Paso, and she was fabulous, did a fantastic job. And I followed her 92 to 94. And you can see some of the same things there that, everyone has, familiar with in terms of things that you work with. But I capitalized one area, and that's advocacy, because that was one area where we really, when I was, involved, spent time working in that. So I go through this for AT&T folks who are, originally with AT&T. You'll see a lot of connections between HACEMOS and AT&T that, Yvonne has already kind of alluded to, but I'll have them. So on an advocacy side, in 1990, the National Hispanic Employee Association, which was made up of affinity groups, or now referred to ERGs, from a number of companies from around the country, was put together. And I'll show you in a minute how that happened. But the bottom line is basically in about same time frame, HACEMOS joined NHEA as so we were on the board, and I was a national president, or this whatever the president then, and so I was on the board of NHEA. And we had companies like Apple Computer, we had Sun Microsystems, and US West, just Xerox, a ton of companies, including AT&T. They were all part of and on the board, the what would be the national president of these organizations, of the National Hispanic Employee Association. So what happened was that there was another organization that already was in existence, which you all, I'm sure, are familiar with, the Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility, HACER. And that was headed up by the licenciado Rick Bella. And they had on their board some very large organizations that were not necessarily corporate, but for example, ASPIDA, which was a Puerto Rican, in essence, coalition, the Cuban American National Council, the National Council of La Raza. So all of those organizations, their national chairs were part of the board of HACER. And then NHEA, by virtue of the fact that, I was the chair at the time, we were asked to join their board. So by virtue of that, HACEMOS and AT&T were also, through our chairmanship, represented on the HACER board. And that was a very, very critical, what I would call strategic move in terms of being able to really address issues within corporate America at the highest levels, meeting with CEOs from Exxon, from Texaco, ultimately even from Southwestern Bell, because HACER could do that as an organization. Can you all hear me okay?
You're
Yes,
good.
Hello?
yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Beautiful. And we can see the slides.
Yeah, so good. So a magazine was published in 1990, I mean in 1995, but I just show here the organization started by Frank Alvarez, who was the CEO of Kaiser Permanente San Francisco Medical Center. He happened to be on the board of the National Hispanic Scholarship Fund. And then Ben Cavazos, who I don't know, Dr. Ivan, if you did you get to meet Ben?
No, no.
Okay. Yeah, Ben Cavazos was basically originally in San Antonio at Southwestern, and he basically at Bevestiture went over to AT&T, and he actually became the first national president of EastBound. He brought together all the different, if you want to call them chapters that were within AT&T, and basically, as Yvonne has alluded to, created a more unified voice for AT&T. So again, there's that connection from Southwestern Bell to AT&T. He was a division manager eventually at AT&T, and also the first eastbound national president. And so this magazine here, Hispanic Professional, was dedicated to the National Hispanic Employee Association, and talked about the organization. Within the magazine, we have, for example, HACEMOS was highlighted. And I used to have hair, believe it or not. And and basically, this is a great artifact for HACEMOS in terms of it's a published magazine that basically had a great article on us at the time back in 1995. And I had the honor of being the national or the HACEMOS president, and then our vice president was Mandy Contreras, who was fabulous. She succeeded and came right after me. And basically, when she joined us, I know she was a second level, but she retired as a division manager. And she was, just incredible, a great, great role model for Latinas in our company. And so this is something that, was as part of NHEA, we were featured in the magazine. We also, by the way, featured AT&T. At the time, Hetty Pena was, she followed Ben, I believe, and was ISPA national president, Dominicana. And, basically did a great job and was, the representative representing ISPA and AT&T at that particular juncture back in the mid-90s, 1995. And then we had a Breaking Barriers Awards conference. We had several, but this was the first one that was held in California, where we honored someone you may know, Solomon Trujillo. He was a CEO at US West, and we honored him as the NHA Executive of the Year. We honored other folks from around the country that were part of NHEA, and companies represented within the NHEA board. And so this was all very important because it allowed us to really work together with all these corporate organizations. This was all corporate, and with the leaders at the national level of those organizations to be able to really develop strategies on how we could continue to address the upward mobility, to make sure that we had representation from Latinx across the board, not only in the entry levels, but all the way up to the officer levels of organizations. And working through ACER made it a lot easier because ACER would meet with CEOs throughout the year and represent in essence, issues. And so we were able to provide ACER with a lot of information about different organizations because of the fact that we lived in the organizations, and as employees, as we all know, you have limits because there's only so much you could do. Obviously you have to make a living, and you don't want to have anyone be in essence concerned or whatever with what's going on, but it started making a difference. And we'll talk about that in a second. But so we had several of these. We had one in San Antonio later in I'd say 1997, 1996 timeframe. And they were very, very well attended with organizations from across the United States. Even the IRS, by the way, had an affinity, Hispanic affinity group, including Avon from New York City. So it was a great opportunity to work together.
Oh, and
At
Dr.
the
Rita,
war.
I'm going to interject just for just a quick second, because if we can go back one slide, I do want to
Sure.
just highlight that it's just pure coincidence that our Latino Talk series this year is titled Breaking Barriers.
Oh my gosh.
And so
How
I'd be remiss if we moved off the slide and I did not mention that. So how it's just a huge coincidence that we're, that's what we called our sessions this month. All of our Latino talks. We have Latinas in tech, we've got social media, we did wellness, and all of them are breaking barriers. So they're
That's
all
fantastic.
yes.
Good for you.
So
Congratulations. I guess great minds sometimes think together.
yes, great committee that
Congratulations.
came up with that. Yes. So thank you.
Yes, yes, same here. We had a group that came up with that, so that's great. So, so that's wonderful. I have both of these magazines, by the way, in case y'all would like to somehow, have a copy for the like I said, artifacts on the work that's been done. And the one in San Antonio, basically, I was the outgoing chair at the time of NHEA, still the president of HACEMOS, and basically, we had an incoming chair, which I'll just show you in a second. But basically, so we were featured in the Hispanic Professional magazine that you just saw because of the Breaking Barriers conference that took place in California, the first one. However, again, to connect with AT&T, we had the conference. Basically, the person who succeeded me was Gina Jimenez when she was involved with ISPA in New Jersey, and she became the chair of NHEA, succeeding myself, and so it was another connection for all the AT&T folks. These two organizations have been just really interconnected and intertwined in many things that we did together. And so it's great that we were able to continue today, where HACEMOS is basically includes AT&T and other areas of the country outside of what was the traditional Southwestern Bell territory. So that's all I have. I wanted to share that because I think it's something that's very relevant to what our history. And again, and I'll also mention that in I want to say it was about 1996, on behalf of basically NHEA, I was invited by as what is it at the time, labor secretary, to present directly at a session that they had on breaking the glass ceiling, which y'all are all familiar, especially for women. And I was addressing breaking the brown ceiling, so to speak, as well. And so that was something that resulted strategically by working closely with the Secretary of Labor and their department. Again, through ACER and through NHEA, we were able to bring those kinds of things about. And it wasn't focused on any particular organization as much as it was focused on the fact that, there were very few people at the senior levels, like when you talk direct reports to CEOs themselves, or in essence board members for corporations that were in essence Latinx. So something that we really pushed, and it turns out that we had a situation in Corpus where just 1 minute where a gentleman contacted me, and he had been trying to take the management test forever. They wouldn't let him because he was Mexican American. And so I made a call to his vice president, and his vice president wouldn't have known him because he had like 6,000 plus employees. But all we were asking was, we don't want any favors. All we were asking is let this person take the exam. And they finally had to. And he scored one of the highest scores ever. He had a master's degree, was non-management, and eventually got promoted. So that was a wonderful result. Also, during the time that we were really working closely with, our CEO, pushing the envelope as gently as we could, but also as forcibly as we could. We had a person that was really, moving along well. And what we did is we accelerated. So we had the first Latina vice president, officer of the company, Norma Martinez, who in essence, and she will tell you, we helped accelerate what happened. And she became an officer of the company back when in I'm going to say 96, 97, 90, around their time frame. And she did very well as an officer. And again, she was on the right track. We just helped accelerate it, so those are the kinds of things that you just can't, measure, the success for somebody like that. And it was always selfless. We were really hoping to set the stage for those that came afterwards.
That's
So that's it.
amazing. Thank you so much. And then Dr. Yvonne, I know Dr. Reina just touched on a few successes. Would you want to touch on a few successes that you've had as well through the early years of when HISPA, HACEMOS? I know there's several out there. We could probably do a whole session just on successes, but wanted to definitely pass that over to you for the opportunity to highlight some of those, because there's some wonderful stories.
Absolutely. I mean, one of our big commitment was about scholarship fundraising as well. And we contributed to the Hispanic Scholarship Fund over $1 million. So it was one of those things that we were very committed to. I also remember in 2004, we won the AT&T Chairman's Diversity Award, which was only given to individuals in the company. As a business resource group, we received that recognition. There was definitely a lot of advocacy to the corporation to support in identifying a Latino or Latina for the board of directors. We were always looking to achieve that. That was definitely something that it was important to us. It should be even more important now. And it's something that, we need to always be advocating for. We had a lot of individuals that were on the C-suite that were, Latino officers, and they were leading the way and becoming mentors. We had something called the Hispanic Executive Council, which were, some of the Latinos that had kind of started to climb that corporate ladder, and they were becoming mentors to others. And of course, we work very closely with AT&T Public Relations. We work very closely with the Law and Government Affairs to represent the corporation at events. That was like really, as Rudy presented, all these different organizations that were coming to be, and making sure that when AT&T was attending those conferences that were about the Latino community, for the Latino community, that the Latino employees were involved and that they were representing the organization. We did a lot of creative things. If you think about it, we were one of the first business resource group in corporate America. We were creating the programs that now are taken for granted in so many organizations. We had this program that it was like, the brown bag lunch with executives, and it was about their leadership journeys. It was about making sure we will reach out to the higher ranked a higher ranked leader in your facility, to have that person come and spend lunchtime with the HISPA leaders. And I remember, like today, like for me, it was those first 10 minutes where we went around the table and each employee said what they did for the company. So we were very intentional in why we were doing this, because we want our voices to be heard. We wanted our contributions to be noticed. And that was kind of like a way, like a huge win-win, because for that leader, they want to do activities that they can do a check mark, for diversity activities. For us, it was an opportunity to say, look, this is who I am, this is where I come from, and this is what I'm contributing to this company. And it was beautiful. Plus, at the same time, we're learning so much. We're learning about the leadership careers of these individuals. So it was a way, as the company was evolving, pre-merger, we lost a lot of the Latino leaders. And at some point, there was no one. And we had to find ways to learn about how can we become that next level of leaders. So it was truly, we did a lot of creative activities. I'm not going to talk about a fashion show we did once at AT&T. I'm not going to talk about having 84 people dancing cha-cha-cha at the same time and the building shaking because of that. There was a lot of beautiful things that we did to be proud of our heritage. I even saw a dress, a Puerto Riqueña dress, traditional dress with my friend. And the next day I danced La Plena, for those of you who know that is, in the middle of a 6,000 people building, the AT&T
Wow.
Labs building. Because, when we started, it was about being heard and about our culture, to celebrate our culture. I say that at that point, we were maybe 25 million Latinos in this country. As the organization evolved, HISPA evolved to now is about sharing our accomplishments so we can be role models for our youth. It is, that's what we are about. We need to bring all the HACEMOS member stories to our youth. And HISPA has many ways to accomplish that. So I want to put that call to action where we have a project called 20,000
Yes.
inspirational stories for our youth, where we want to record your stories. We have another project called Step by Step, My Career Step by Step. It takes you 1 hour to fill these 10 questions, and we create a profile for you that the students can see your careers and find out, who are the people that are doing data analytics at AT&T? How do you get there? And they can see the trajectory of your stories. Plus, of course, step into the classrooms virtually or in person. So we continue to work very actively with New Jersey. So kudos to New Jersey leadership. They opened the door for us to bring the students to your campus. They have joined us at the youth conferences, at schools, to do what we call the Imagine Day, where the kids will be building the robots and meeting the role models. I mean, we really have to know that even though in our journey, HISPA has impacted, the new HISPA, about 25,000 students. That's not even 1% of the students, the Latino students in our schools. Like, we have to see, yes, we've done a lot, but there's so much more to be done. And by uniting forces and by having these conversations, we can do more and support, our youth in the most optimal way.
And I think that's a beautiful way to end, because I know we're at time, but I think everything started on a united front and we continue on a united front. If you have the opportunity, I know Nadine asked a question in the chat. If you have a moment, if you can take a look at that and answer her, we'd be grateful for you. If not, we'll get it out to you and we'll get it answered via email. But if you had a free moment, I do want to wrap us up, because we have as well, Latino Career Chat is happening on Twitter starting now. So for those, yes, I know, Dr. Yvonne, I know you've seen it. Dr. Reina, if you haven't seen it, if you're on Twitter, it'll be on LinkedIn as well. But every year we do a Latino Career Chat over social media where we answer 8 questions, and then people can, requote and retweet and answer those questions as well. So looking forward, hopefully everybody on today's call can participate in that. Thank you guys again for your patience as we work through some of the technical difficulties. We will clean up the recording from today and kind of cut some of those items out and then post that recording for our members. So thank you both from the bottom of my heart, not only for being at our 35th, Dr. Rena. Yvonne, thank you for all of the continued sponsorship and support. I know New Jersey, I mean, you guys are like sisters
Yeah.
out there in New Jersey, and really, truly honored to hear your stories and hear our story of HACEMOS, and to continue that and to have it recorded, right? I know Ramiro's on, so I know he'll do a great job in ensuring that this history doesn't go, doesn't need to be dusted off, right? We keep it in the forefront, and it's not something that just gets packed away. So again, thank you guys for your time. It was wonderful seeing you again, and have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you to everybody who was able to join.